Today, what I'm going to be discussing is mostly output formatting. So we'll talk about that today. But before I get to that, I want to give you guys sort of an assignment you can work on. And the assignment is, you can do this in your free time if you want to, it's optional. But if you would like to really practice, gauge your knowledge on everything that we've done up till now, and you want feedback on it or something like that, you can create a, you can do this assignment on your own, and I can give you feedback on whether or not your solution is good. And if enough people do the assignment, I could perhaps spend like half a class or maybe entire class next time to go over like the ins and outs of doing like an actual sort of like project in Java. Perhaps one of our first ones, I guess. So the assignment is to create a tic-tac-toe game with methods for displaying the board, updating it, and evaluating if the game has been won or tied, because you can tie in tic-tac-toe if no more moves are possible. And one caveat to this is that the board will also need to be evaluated to see if a chosen space is available, in which it hasn't been chosen before. And the game should ask the player to pick another position if what they're picking isn't available. And the most important topics for this so-called assignment would be a review method, would be the method construction and 2D array slides, and you can review those. Those slides should be, and videos should be posted on Google Classroom. And I'll add one more thing here. If you guys would want feedback on it after having tried it or done it, you can email me at this. So you can email any potential solutions to this, and if I get enough interest in this assignment, I can go over it next meeting or maybe a future meeting. So I want to give you guys an actual project that extends beyond what we're doing in class, to see if you guys are able to practice doing what we've learned so far, I guess. So I just want to start class with that, a perhaps more hands-on possibility of practicing rather than just listening to my lectures. And I think that could be valuable moving forward, at least. So I'm gonna move on to the main focus of our class today, which is outputting formats. So I'll first give a definition of this thing, what we call an escape sequence. So certain, as we know in Java, certain special characters have like additional meanings in the Java code. For example, a string would have two quotes in the beginning and the end of a string to denote it as a string. So if we want to print the phrase hello, but with actual quotation marks printed, the computer might get confused because it would treat the quotation double quote at the beginning or the end of a string, rather than what should be outputted the string itself. And this is one of the scenarios in which we use an escape sequence. So as I said here, to fix this problem, we would put a backslash in front of the double quotes in order to tell the computer basically that we want to treat the double quote as a string, as a character rather than a function. And other examples of when we would need a escape sequence, a backslash in front of a special character would be like a single quote, another backslash, or maybe I don't know, a semicolon or something like that. Anything that has a subsidiary meaning in Java code, when you want to output as the character itself in a string, you would have to use an escape sequence. So does anyone have any questions on that? Oh yeah, also, does anyone have any questions regarding the assignment I gave you guys? I forgot to ask that earlier. No questions? How about if I ask another question? Let's say, is anyone interested in actually doing the assignment and sending me a solution over the week? Okay, that's great. So do you know, I'll give you my email again, I guess. Okay, great. I don't know. I'm not sure if the rest of my class is just like AFK or something, but I guess I'll move on. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you can always go back to the video itself. It's just that it's better to ask me any questions if you have them now, and you can always email me if you have any questions after the fact. Okay, great. So other than the scenario in which we need to specify a character as an actual character as a part of a string, there are some other examples of escape sequences. And the first few I'll give will be /b, which is a backspace, a /t, which is a tab, and a /n, which is a new line. So these are all formatting commands, which allow us to really format how any text is outputted. And in general, the definition of the escape sequence is anything that is used to give a character an additional meaning in Java. So what that means is usually B just means the character B, right? But if I put a backslash in front of it, it has the meaning of a backspace. And what these commands and escape sequence combined with a character allow us to do is that they allow us to format the outputted text in a desirable way. For example, we can create a list. I don't know, create like a tic-tac-toe board, for example, if we're talking about something relevant to the assignment I gave. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions on escape sequences? Okay, I'll move on. So for those of you guys that don't understand it yet, perhaps an example would help. So how would we output the following? A to-do list with two listed elements, 2 items, 1 to buy milk/eggs, and 2, if there are avocados, to buy 12. So the first thing we note here is that there's a backspace here, and we know that the backspace has a subsidiary meaning in Java. So therefore, we have to use an escape sequence to note the backspace. The secondary thing is that we know that each of the list items are tabbed. So we would want to use a escape sequence for that as well. And I'll show you what I mean, hopefully. That would not work because the backspace in this scenario has a subsidiary meaning. So you have to, I think, I'll show you guys. what I mean. I think it should be a double backspace. Let's see. If we want to do all of this in one line, it's possible. So first thing is to-do list, right? So /t. By milk. Oh wait, I'm bad. In this scenario, the slash would actually work because slash does not have a subsidiary meaning in Java. But if it was a backslash, you would run into a problem. I can show you guys what I mean by that later. Wait. Legal characters. Okay, it kind of worked. So we see that it prints out in the correct format. We have an extra space somehow here because I probably put an extra space in here somewhere. But as we see, we need to use the /n/t command to print it out in the correct format. And an additional thing would be that it's a slash here, so we don't need to use the escape sequence because slash does not have a meaning in Java. However, if it was a backslash, we would have to use the double backslash, like that, I think. Yeah, see, we are able to output a backslash only if we do a double backslash here. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's an example of how to use an escape sequence, this code here, to output a to-do list. And I think I'll move on. Does anyone have any questions on this example? Okay, yeah, so I fixed it up a little. Now it looks like pretty much exactly what we have in our example. And yeah, so this is how we use an escape sequence to print out correctly formatted strings using one line, pretty much. Instead of like repeatedly printing out print line or even putting a bunch of spaces in there to get the correct format, we can use what we call escape sequences or special commands we put in a string. All right, so I guess none of you guys have any questions, so I'll move on. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about in regards to outputs is what we call the printf method. So by default, Java can output a double type variable with too few or too many decimal places. And the way they do it is pretty much seemingly random. It's pretty complicated, so I won't explain how they actually calculate how many decimal places they print out without using the printf method. But for example, an example of why this might be an issue would be if we're referring to like money, for example, $3.14 and 0.15 doesn't make sense in regards to money because the smallest unit for money is cents, so we wouldn't have the extra decimal places at the end. So therefore, in this scenario above, we would want to restrict the number of decimal places outputted with the printf method, and this would involve an example of when we use this would be if we're calculating like a sales tax percentage. The actual calculation, for example, if it's 7%, might give you a decimal place, might give you a very messy double type variable with a lot of decimals at the end. But we want to remove and round up on the decimal places at the end because we are referring to money, and the decimal places at the end don't really mean anything to us or the user of the program. So how would we do that? Would be using a print method. So I'll go over the format of it real quick, and then if you guys have any questions, I can show you an example. So the basic format of the printf method would be system.out.printf, and then %a double quotes %a dot bf double quotes comma c. And what this would print out would be for any integers a and b, the above statement will print a number c, a, b, c, with b decimal places and with a column size of a. So b decimal places should make a lot of sense. For example, in our last slide, I mentioned 3.1415. If it's dollars, we will want to have two decimal places. So in that scenario, we will want b to be 2 to restrict it to 2 decimal places. But column size is a bit more confusing. Column size refers to how many characters there are in the entire line. So I'll give an example below. If the column size where A is 12, then the entire line would have to have 12 characters. If we restrict the number 3.14196 where pi to 2 decimal places, it would be 3.14, correct? And 3.14 has 4 characters, the 3, the dot, the 1, and the 4. However, the line has to have 12 characters total. So we would have to have an extra 8 characters somewhere. So these 8 characters are put in front of the 3.14. So 8 plus 4 is 12. So the total character length of the entire line would be 12. So does anyone have any questions on this? Additional thing would be that a lot of the time you don't need to restrict the column size. So if we would want to output it as normal, like not restricting it and outputting it just at the front without any spaces at the front, we would just omit the A and it would be double quotes percent dot BF double quotes comma C, in which the B would determine how many decimal places C is restricted to. So I'll show you an example of this, I guess. So if we have a double value, say, I don't know, what should I make a double value of? Money? To say you spend $21.19 buying, I don't know, what do you guys buy nowadays? Buying a sweater. I don't know, let's see. Buying a car, yes. You can buy a car with $21.19. I wish that was everything. Then we can calculate sales tax. How would we calculate sales tax? I'm assuming you guys all live in New Jersey, so that'd be 7%. I don't know. Do any of you guys live in New York? I'm not sure. So we create a new variable, call it tax. And what tax would be equal to would be 21.19. Oh wait, no. Money times 0.07. Oh, someone lives in Ohio. You guys probably have a higher sales tax. It was bad. Okay, so now we want to output tax to 2 decimal places, because if we don't, let's output it as normal. Just right now, I want to see what it is. Right? If I don't restrict the decimal places, it would be weird. We would get 1.48330000003, right? And this does not make sense for regular humans, because everything after the 8 doesn't translate to a cent. So we have to use the printf function. We want to restrict it to 2 decimal places. So we'll do something like we write tax is dollars. Percent, quote percent dot 2f tax. See? So now this is much more better. there's an extra spacing here for some reason. I messed up my coding a little. But we can see that it's restricted to 2 decimal places, and it's also the same exact number. Before it was 1.4833, and then with a bunch of zeros after it, but now it's 1.48. So we can see that the computer correctly outputted tags in 2 decimal places. And also, I like to give this example because we can see that the printf function works with other strings in front of it or after as well. In this instance, we put tags is $signs in front to make it to give some meaning to the variable tags in our scenario. And this is the way in which we would do it. Oh shit. So we can see that the %.2f works with stuff in front of it or after it. Does anyone have any questions on the printf method? Hopefully this makes sense for you guys. Okay, so no questions? Where would you put before the decimal again? In terms of what? For the format? The constraint. Oh, okay. So the constraint is in every scenario, you have to have a %.2f for 2 decimal places. This 2 can be exchanged for any number integer. For example, if you wanted to restrict it to 1 decimal place, it would be 1. 3 decimal place would be 3, right? But in our scenario, I wanted to restrict it to 2 decimal places. So you would put the constraint right before wherever you want to apply the constraint to. In our scenario, we want to apply the constraint to the variable tags. So we would put it here, and then we would end the quote with a double quotes, and then put a comma. So basically, the 12 in the earlier example. Oh, the 12 in the earlier example would restrict this entire line to 12 characters. Usually you wouldn't use it, but for example, before 12, you would just put it in front of the dot. So it would be %a.b. In the example I give here, I just do %.bf. If that makes sense. Usually you don't need to worry about the column size, but I just want to give like the standard definition of the printf method and what it's capable of. Okay, good question. So now I get to test you guys for your understanding. So you guys can create a method that accepts an integer radius as a parameter and then outputs the area, circumference, and radius of the appropriate circle with 2 decimal places in the following format. So you guys can start now, and I will do it alongside you guys, and then maybe at the if you guys are finished, you can look at my solution, or you can look back to the video posted online on my Google Classroom or anything like that afterwards. So I'll open up BlueJ, I guess. Oh, does anyone still need the prompt? Oh, and just a note, if you guys don't know, the area of a circle is pi r squared, and the circumference is 2 pi r. And pi in Java is a function by itself. Math.pi refers to the variable 3.14196, 5358992, etc. So we create a new project. Oh no, circle radius, circle. We can call it circles. where can I put it so you guys can see the question? This isn't great by any means, but I don't have to do. Okay, so we have a circle here. One of the properties of a circle should be its radius, which is an integer based on the question. So I don't know, default radius is like what, 12, 0. We can make it the point a default circle. So the question, what the question asks is to create a sample method that accepts an integer as a parameter and outputs the following. Since it's outputting as text, the output would be of the form void because nothing is actually returned to the user. Instead, something is printed out. And the parameter is an integer, radius. Instead of calling sample method, maybe we can do like circle facts. Right? So this is what we call the method signature, just for a quick review. And now we want to do the following. So first, I guess we want to calculate a few things. So double area. Okay, the variable for area would be 2 Alright, no, pi r squared, I'm bad. Radius times math.pi. You could also use the math.pal function, which you can do a squared in it, but this is quicker for me. So now we have the two variables, we just have to output it. First line, we would just use a print line, radius, whoops, plus 5. Oh shoot, radius. And then we would do a printf function because I have to limit the things. So we would do /t area percent dot 2f. We want to have it to 2 decimal places. And we output area. For the next one, and then we also have to have be pretty much similar to what we do here, except we have to tab twice based on our format. So we just do another /t. And then we change up our variables to match what we're describing, of course. And we should get something like this. This should work. Right, so I'll test this real quick. We want to test radius 5 because I calculated those earlier. And see, it works. Radius 5, area 78.54, circumference 31.42. And this matches our example in the question pretty much exactly. So I'll go back to my code real quick so you guys can see it. And if you guys aren't able to get this yet, this is my code for it. This testing your understanding. So does anyone have any questions on that? Of course, if you guys are still working on it, that is totally fine. I did it pretty fast. Probably more faster than like I thought I would. But I'll add one more point right now. For this instance, I put the /n after the %.2f because I wanted to put the new line after area. So you could replace this /n with any text after it. For example, if I want to add some text after the 578.54 word to 31.42, you can do that. And how you would do it would be to just put it after the %.2f. I'll show you what I mean real quick. For example, I don't know, I wanted to add a unit for it. For circumference, for example, it could be centimeters. I can just put a cm here, and that should work. I'll show you what it would output. See, this is this exact same thing as what we had before, except we have a centimeter here. So that shows that we can add text after the number in which we restrict the decimal places to. And the way we would do that would be like what I have in my code right now.